Hello everyone, welcome back to The Walk. We are now up to episode 10, so a little bit of a milestone, I suppose, for the show, the movement, and for myself. To be 10 episodes in is pretty exciting, and it's been an amazing journey thus far, and I'm looking forward to hopefully the next 10, 20,000 episodes. Just before we start, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who reaches out and listens and subscribes to the channel, whichever format that is on. I do encourage people, if you are a listener or you're a first time listener and you do like what it's about, then please do subscribe. Don't feel scared or worried to leave a comment or an idea. Feedback is fantastic and welcomed all the time. And I am all about growing this into something for the people, especially those fathers and men who are struggling. But again, this is for anyone. It could be a partner, could be a father or a mother worried about their son or their brother-in-law or their son-in-law, whatever it may be. This space is to give people raw insight into what it is like being a male in this modern world, especially through fatherhood and trying to recapture oneself. I mean, that's all I'm trying to do with this, is also find out who I am and better myself so that the people around me get the best version of me, but more importantly, I get the best version of myself, because without us being the best version of ourselves, we can't facilitate the space required for other people to get the best version of us. So please do subscribe, like, follow. It does go a long way. And for everyone who has reached out and left feedback and gotten in touch, whether it is through a DM or a message or an email, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Now we're sort of up to episode 10. I really want to ramp up, I suppose, the direction, not change the direction, but I suppose I want to ramp it up and try and be a lot more direct and still remain my true self, but also be quite direct and deal with things and cover topics with how I have covered them and how I have dealt with them in real life. I'm very much the type of person who I thrive on honesty and I thrive on upfront, no bullshit responses. And at times you need to be loving and nurturing and not saying shy away from that. But moving forward, I do want to try and remain as direct and upfront as I can, as I have been the whole time. So today we're going to be covering something that I've been going through right now. We've spoken about rebuilding, a little bit of that identity shift, but I sort of want to touch on like who we are when we don't, or when we're without what we actually do. I'll start with a question that I've sort of had to sit there with for a while, and I have sat with for a while, but currently in this rebuilding stage that I'm in through injury, I've had to sit there and go, if I couldn't work again tomorrow, who would I be? And it's sort of not what would I earn or what do I earn and not how I would survive, but who I am at the core. And like I said, I've been off work, I've been injured, I've been slowed down, I've been pushed to my absolute limits of late with patience, and this injury is an up and down battle. So one day I think I'm on the mend and I'm good to go, and then the next day I'm shot back to reality with pain and not being able to be mobile. And I suppose what has surprised me the most isn't the pain, because I knew it was going to come with an injury, but it's how quickly my identity shifted. And I think it's because I've started to notice something really uncomfortable. And what I'm finding really uncomfortable is that I don't work for income. I actually work for the identity. And most men build their identity around their performance and what they can bring to the table. And that's got to do with what we do, what we earn, what we produce, and I suppose how strong we are. We live by an equation we sort of never question. So like, your worth equals work, your work equals output, and output equals your value. And that's something I've had to sit with right now and really get uncomfortable with and start thinking about all these things about who am I without work? Who am I without providing how I only know how to provide? So when when the work stops, your worth starts to collapse. And I've found that to be a massive problem. Throughout this sort of time, like when I can't move properly and when I can't lift and when I can't show up physically the way that I'm used to, I haven't felt just frustrated. I felt so small, like so tiny. I probably have never felt then like less of a man than how I'm feeling right now. Excuse me. And I think that's because no one really teaches us how to be valuable without being productive. So then when your productivity drops, your confidence drops. And of late, like my confidence has been like shot to shit. Like I honestly don't know who I am. I'm trying to still figure that out. I know how it looks, like I have spoken about before, but I don't actually know who I am. And I suppose we don't fear losing money. We probably fear losing, our worth, and we fear that we'll become irrelevant. So, like when all you do is provide and all you do is work, 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 you're relevant because you're keeping food on the table, you're keeping bills on the table, and that's not from outside pressure. That's from perceived pressure that we bring into ourselves. And I've had to really sit there and go, you're still relevant and you're still important. But right now, you're going through a season of injury that's making you feel extremely useless. And my self worth throughout this whole thing has been just up and down, up and down. There's good days, there's bad days, there's days where I don't want to get out of bed, there's days of regret, days of guilt, and they're all completely normal. Just want to reiterate that. And again, I can sit here and tell you that, and it's easier said than done, but it is a lot of practicing. And like I've said numerous times, it is progression over perfection. And when you start losing, or when your only identity, I suppose, is providing, you do become pretty fragile because life eventually removes your performance. So you can like motivate yourself every day and go, I'm killing it. I'm dominating. My family are fed. We just bought a new car. We just, we can afford to do the home renovations that we've wanted to do for so long. And you can go through all that. But when, you're put in a situation like this, and many other situations, you do become pretty fragile. And that can come from like injury, burnout, health, or even just age. Like as we get older, I'm starting to notice like I'm 33 and I've been walking around like I'm 93 with my back. And it does hit you pretty hard. And like I said, you do become fragile. You start to feel irrelevant. And what I will say is that will pass. Just like the good times will pass, the bad times will pass as well. And one thing that's really come to the forefront for me is surrounding my kids. Like my kids don't need my income; they just need my presence. And your partner doesn't need provision; they just need like an emotional stability in the room. Because when a father or a man of a family becomes fragile and starts to feel irrelevant, everyone in that unit feels it. And we shrug it off thinking we'll be fine. That sort of tough bravado, keep trucking on. And that's what a man would do. But in reality of it, everyone does feel it. And I think we just become blind to it because it probably becomes too hard for us to understand or to come to the realization that they are feeling it because we don't want them to feel that. We carry that as our own burden, but we need to understand that it does project to them. And strength without presence is just distance, in my view. And like I said, it can be very difficult, and it is very easy for me to sit here and say this. But I have had the luxury of time at the moment, even though it's not the greatest circumstances, to actually think. And the one thing you can't do is become distant. Don't shut off. Don't just tell yourself you're all right and everyone else that you're all right if you're not. Speak up. And I suppose like the distance is what does tarnish, relationships, friendships, and it can definitely break marriages. My marriage isn't broken. I'm very lucky, but we, we work extremely hard, my wife and I, behind closed doors to ensure that our marriage stays intact. And I came to the realization pretty quick that marriage isn't Hollywood, where it's this beautiful thing and everyone's joyous, and you're both going to be exhausted. You're both going to have your own needs that need filling, and you're both going to need to care for one another in different seasons of life. And right now, my wife's helping me as amazingly, and I'm so blessed. But just make sure that those lines of communication stay open throughout whatever season you're in, because that's the key to longevity in love, relationships, and friendships. The question I've probably sat with a lot is like, so what am I doing, and what do we do when we're in these situations? And I think we build deeper layers. And I've been going through this, and I've sort of nutted it down to 3 layers to identity. Layer 1 would be your performance, your money, output, strength, and your status. Layer 2 is your presence, patience, listening, regulation, and stability. Layer 3 is your principles, integrity, ownership, and your character under pressure. Most men, including myself, will max out layer 1. Life eventually will strip away that layer 1. And when that happens, you're forced into layers 2 and 3. That's not punishment whatsoever. That's actually an invitation, and an invitation that should be taken in its stride and worked through. To be completely frank and completely honest, like, if you can't sit still without a distraction, you don't know yourself. And if your worth disappears when your job does, your identity was shallow. And I don't mean that in an attack, and I don't mean that in judgment. It's because I've been there and I've had to sit with this so much. And what I've realized is I didn't know or don't know who I am when I'm not moving, when I'm not providing, when I'm not stressed. I think we grow to take stress on, and it just becomes our day to day. Now, stress is not a bad thing. I'm not going to say it's a terrible thing. We do need stress sometimes, but I think we stress about the wrong things, and it sort of allows us to stay distracted, and gives us an excuse to justify why we are being the way we're being. And being able to sit still in the chaos and move intentionally is something that I work on constantly, day in, day out. And it's a work in progress, but I highly recommend it to people. Sit there in the stillness, sit there in the quiet of all the chaos, and really see how you want to move through a situation, not just how your body innately tells you to move, because we are fine-tuned, in my opinion, to react a certain way and to conduct ourselves in a certain way because we have been wired by society and pressures of life to do so. When, like I said, your worth does disappear, or when your worth disappears, when your job does, that means your identity was shallow. That's actually awareness. And awareness is the beginning of strength. And what we need to understand is, to get stronger, we need to be aware. For so long, I thought I was strong and I thought I was unbreakable. But as I've said, I was actually just weak. And there's no shame in that. I don't run away from it. I don't hide from it. And neither should anyone listening to this. It's more just becoming aware that that's the current point of time or current way you react to things and the situation you're in. Be aware of it, sit with it, get comfortable with the uncomfortable, and then move intentionally with your best foot forward. Small intentional shifts are greater than uphauling or uplifting your entire life and trying to create reform in everything you do, because that's only going to add more layers of stress, more layers of worry and confusion for all those around you. What I want people to do is this week, and I'll do this myself so that when we come back to the next episode, I want people to do 3 things this week. Number 1 is I want you to introduce yourself without your job title. I've caught myself so many times meeting people and I say to him, I'm Jake. How you going? Yeah, not bad. Yeah, I'm a chippy. I'm a concreter. So that's not actually who I am. I'm actually Jake, father of two, married to a beautiful woman with a loving family. Now, I'm not saying that's how you got to introduce yourself to people. Please don't think that I want you to walk up and go, "G'day, my name's such and such, and I have, two cars at home. One's not working, and I just want you to be able to go up and just chest out, proud, shake that hand, and be like, "This is who I am," and be proud that that's the person you are. Number two, which is something that I'm constantly working on, is spend 30 minutes of being present without fixing, I suppose, anything. Just put your phone away, put that laptop away, and try and take that mind away from everything that's bringing you grief, stress, worry, things at work, things outside of work, and just really be present and try not to fix anything. The other day, I was struggling a fair bit with a bit of pain, and I started to get frustrated and annoyed, and I could feel it, and I could feel it was going to boil over to the people that I love the most, and it's not their fault. So I just said to my wife, I'm going to go have a lay down. So I went and laid down, one to rest the back, but also I just put on some meditation, a guided meditation, and I had the best hour and a half sleep I've had, and it just removed all silence from my mind. And I just went into this deep sleep, and I woke up feeling recharged, and I was just like, I don't know what I was thinking before. And obviously, when you're at work, or on your circumstances could be different, but if you're at work or you're running errands or whatever it is, you probably don't have the luxury to just switch on a meditation, but find some things that work for you. Whether it is writing things down, whether it is keeping those mental notes, whether it is breath work and breathing techniques, deep breaths in, big breaths out 3 times, and just don't react. Work on the response that you're going to give. Just don't react at the drop of a hat. Take your time. But yeah, number 2 for this week would be to sit there for 30 minutes and not try to fix anything. Don't try and fix what your mind's working overtime, worrying about. Don't try and fix something between the 2 kids that, they're disagreeing about a toy and all this. Just move intentionally, move calmly, and be present with no distractions. The third thing for this week I want people to ask themselves is, if I couldn't work for a year, who would I need to become? I've been sitting there of late, really honing in on that question. And I'm still honing in on that question. But who would you be if you couldn't work for a year? Who would you become? What version of yourself would you want to be? Whether it's for your family, whether it's for yourself, whether it's for your career, who do you want to be if you had that year to change everything, or you were forced into a situation where you had to sit there and be uncomfortable and reassess? You are more than what you produce, but you have to build that identity deliberately before life tells you to or requires you to. If you're in a current season right now where you feel stuck or you feel lost, again, completely warranted. It's completely normal. We all go through it, but it does get better as long as you want it to get better. Everything will be okay, but only if you know who you are when the noise stops. And that's the one thing I'd encourage everyone to work on and sit with and reflect on. Being able to move calmly in the chaos is something that can change how you view life, and it can change who you are as a human being in the most positive way. And again, I'm not a master of this. I will never profess that I'm a master of this. I work on this all the time. But by trying a few simple techniques this week and doing some journaling and really putting the time into who I am and being present, I've just noticed a lot of a shift. So I'll sit with those 3 questions this week as well. And I encourage anyone who's listening to. And feel free, if you wanted to reach out and say, look, Jake, this is what I wrote down the 3 questions and this is what I came up with, that's awesome. I think we all need sort of a push along sometimes, or a bit of help, or a bit of guidance to where to go. Again, I'm not a practitioner. I'm not a medical professional. I'm just speaking from lived experience. And these are things that help me. And these are questions that I sit with and work through week in, week out, especially in this season of injury. My bad. So I appreciate everyone for tuning into this one. We will have more coming in the following weeks. Again, if there's any advice, any feedback, anyone you'd like to see on the show, then by all means reach out and provide us with whatever you see fit, even if it's just a hello. I'll always get back to everyone. I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate you walking alongside me. I'm Jake Donnelly, and this is The Walk.